Hi, this is Mark Harvey. Welcome back to Beyond Profit, a global perspective. Last year, 2024, that was a crazy political season, right? And so many people thought that Kamala Harris was going to pull it out, even though the odds were stacked against her. And a lot of it was because a lot of people sort of saw this major social media push that her campaign was putting out. In fact, people went so far as to sort of like say Kamala Harris had a brat summer, right? And it caused a lot of people to start talking about Charli XCX, the pop star, right? And all of a sudden, can Charli XCX somehow influence the outcomes? Well, clearly we know that whatever she did didn't make that much difference in the long term, but it does raise some interesting questions, right? Like, was all this stuff overrated? Why do people kind of get stuck in that, and so on? And honestly, what power does somebody like that really have to influence people? Because you can't deny that she got a lot of attention, or maybe Harris got a lot of attention for her. I don't know. But that's what I want to talk about. As usual, I want to remind you to please like and subscribe and share these videos if they're things that you enjoy. And now, let's talk a little bit about celebrity politics. My argument when it comes to Charli XCX is that, she did what lots of celebrities can do very well, and that is raise the profile of an issue. Or at that particular moment, at an exciting moment when somebody is getting ready to run for president in the middle of a cycle and nobody knew it was going to happen, and oh my gosh, what a surprise, now you have that celebrity endorsement at that time. And I think that she was able to amplify attention. And I bet, and like I said, I don't have evidence on that, but I bet you could probably measure that, like in terms of people who are signing up for Kamala Harris's Twitter feed or whatever. There's probably ways to objectively kind of measure that. And my hypothesis is that it probably did increase people's attention. It probably made people pay more attention to her. Plus, it also did another thing. Like I wrote a chapter of a book a few years ago about how one of Trump's big assets in the 2016 election was all the free press that he got, right? Just by being a celebrity. He was outpacing Hillary Clinton, who had to spend a whole lot more money, and he could just be like, hi, I'm Donald Trump, and CNN is covering him 24/7.
Right.
So, that I think you have a similar effect when Charli XCX comes along. The other thing is like, okay, she's not that huge. I mean, she's huge, but she's not like, it's mostly like younger generation people paying attention. I mean, Taylor Swift's got a way broader reach as far as like crossing those generations. Charli XCX is kind of new-ish, at least a few years old, So I think part of it wasn't just her celebrity. I think part of it also was the way in which it was presented, like the art aspect of it, the imitation of the Brat album cover, and how that became iconic. You wouldn't even have to know who Charli XCX is, but suddenly you have these really cool images happening. And yes, it may have had some resonance with, some Gen Z people or whatever, but I think that there was more than that going on actually here too, and it fit in nicely. And then the Harris campaign, I think, pivoted really well and was like, okay, well, let's start making more stuff that looks like this, stuff that's going to appeal more to younger people. But the challenge is this, right? Like, and again, this kind of goes back to another study I did with some colleagues back in August. We actually did some research on whether or not a Taylor Swift endorsement was going to make any difference in the election. And we interviewed, surveyed 1,500 people. And we discovered that people who already liked Kamala Harris weren't going to get moved by Taylor Swift because they were already in that camp, right? And the Trump people weren't going to change their minds either. But if they were undecided and Swifties, then she had some influence on them. But this was the influence, right? First of all, if she just said go vote, then it would increase the likelihood that they would go register to vote, right? So that's cool, right? If she said vote for a Democrat, people are actually less likely to want to vote for a Democrat. So there's this knee-jerk effect once she starts talking about the politics of it. And so I think that what you might have seen with Charli XCX is lots of people are paying attention and lots of people are responding and signing up, right? But that doesn't necessarily translate to votes. And it may have a knee-jerk effect against some people, for all the people who register to vote, for all the people who subscribe to Twitter accounts or whatever to follow Kamala Harris, how many people didn't? How many people were turned off by that? And so that's the data that you can't really gather, which is why it's so difficult really to kind of like create this connection really to try to prove that. But I do think that something really interesting happened, and I'm speaking now as an old man, not somebody who's a Gen Z person, although I do think that if like Charli XCX met me, she'd probably say I was Brat, right? 'Cause, right? Hey. No, but anyway, like I keep in mind, I study celebrities, and that endorsement came out, and I was like, who's Charli XCX? I've got teenage daughters, and I'm like, whatever. They don't know who she is, and we're like, okay, whatever. So the reason why I say that is that endorsement really, to start with, only probably mattered to, I can't say a few. I mean, she's a huge pop star, but to the people who were actually caring about her, like I said before, only Swifties care about Taylor Swift, right? Yeah. Her fans are going to care about her. If people don't know about her, then it's not going to have any impact at all. People who are paying attention to TikTok are not old people. And so if that's what you're looking at and that's what you're getting excited about and all your friends are sort of inside that, then it is what you say. It's an echo chamber. Yeah. What I think happened, though, is something that's more than just grassroots. So you had grassroots. She just said something off the cuff. Kamala is Brat, right? And then the Kamala Harris campaign puts it out. And all of a sudden people are like, hey, who's Charli XCX? Right? Yeah. So then she probably selling more records now because Kamala Harris campaign is putting her out now. And it becomes this cycle where one side is kind of supporting the other. Now, I don't believe, now I could be wrong about this, but I don't think that Charli XCX said a lot more about the campaign after that initial endorsement. It was just kind of like it's just something she threw out because she had an opinion. And, so I don't think it was like she didn't continue to support the Harris campaign, but the Harris campaign really kind of continued to support her. That actually brings up sort of an interesting alignment with my research, is that, usually the celebrities that are the most influential are ones who don't just pop up out of nowhere and say, hi, I care about this issue now, or hi, I'm gonna vote for that person. It's like, I always use the example of Justin Bieber, right? Like, so what if Justin Bieber comes out and endorses Trump or endorses Kamala Harris? Most people are just like, yeah, whatever. It's Justin Bieber, right? And the reason why people respond that way is that he's, I hate to say it, just a pop star, right? But they don't, he doesn't have anything else really going for him, and like, sure, I like his music, but it's whatever. It's when people who are more consistently involved and have created more of an image of themselves as someone as sort of a state person that it actually starts to matter a little bit more. So somebody like Bono from U2, who is lobbied presidents and fought on behalf of AIDS in Africa and like all sorts of issues, or Angelina Jolie, who's like a UN ambassador, or George Clooney, who's like had discussions with Congress about Sudan, and like these people, they start talking, they're like, okay, well, they have a little bit more gravitas, they've got a little more capital. And the one example that I can come up with where a difference was made in a political campaign, Oprah endorsing Barack Obama, she has that same sort of similar capital. And so, I don't think it's a coincidence that happens. So what you get when Charli XCX comes along really is kind of the equivalent of Justin Bieber, only she just happens to have a cool album cover, and the Harris campaign is like, hey, young people like us, check this out. Hey, we're young and cool. Let's see how long we can play the young and cool. And then they did a really smart thing, right? They hired a whole load of like Gen Z young women to do their marketing for them, and men too, but a whole bunch of young people, and just like, we're just going to create all this viral stuff and throw it out there and make it funny and make it fun, and they did a great job with that. But I think that it all got kind of kicked off by the fact that Charli XCX did this thing, and suddenly a bunch of young people who worked for them were like, hey, this is cool, we could do something with this, and then they ran with it. And so in this case, I really don't think it's as much like her influence, but the fact that she became a PR object for the campaign, kind of accidentally, I don't think she expected to have that much attention either. She just says, Kamala is Brat. All right. Everybody's like, what does that mean? Wow. And by the way, I went and started listening to the album once I kind of like found out who she was. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is good stuff,
Yeah,
it's all right.
Good album.
Yeah, I know. I dig it. I think that Charli XCX failed to deliver on the promise of Brat Summer because she was never going to get there in the first place, okay? I mean, like I said, she's a pop star. She doesn't have all of that experience that like other, more recognizable public figures, more celebrities who have done more political stuff. Like, she doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
And so she's just expressing her opinion, and that's all. And so it's a little bit much to put on Charli XCX to deliver a candidate, right? I mean, God bless her. It's like Barack Obama gave some endorsements too, and he couldn't deliver.
Right.
I mean, it's just like it's probably a little unfair to the pop star to say that.
Yeah.
Now, I will also say that it is one thing to create attention and engagement, and it's a different thing to actually deliver votes. So there was a Harvard study that came out, I think last September or October or something like that talked about how celebrities make differences in elections, but it had nothing to do with endorsements. It was just like people get excited and they start paying attention. And, so I think that's the kind of, that's the way in which somebody like Charli XCX can affect elections. It's not necessarily that she can deliver votes, but like Taylor Swift, maybe she could get more people to pay attention, maybe she could get more people to register. She could do these things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she's gonna push them one way or another.